Happy Casual Wine Geek Wednesday.
It's the reunion tour you didn't know you missed.
We're back, bitches.
Or maybe you did miss it, as we got some notes from people.
We did get your notes. Thank you for missing us. We love you. We missed you back.
Wait, put your glass over here so I can fix it because it's broken. Empty like my soul. Oh, that's a gorgeous color.
Thank you for being patient with us. So we were gone for a little bit. And there's one thing that I've learned about having a podcast.
What's that? I've learned a couple things, but what have you learned?
One is when you have a podcast, there's no such thing as bad news in your life. Because any news that you get in your life that's bad, you can turn it into something funny and talk about it on the podcast, right?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely make fun of myself all the goddamn
all
time.
the time. Except for when you have technical difficulties and you can't record a podcast.
If your computer dies, guess what you can't use for a podcast? Morse code.
You can't. No.
You can't use
Smoke
a ham.
signals?
You can't use a ham radio.
You can't do a hammer and a chisel.
No. Carrier pigeon, maybe.
It's a lot of pigeon poop. Anyway, the computer. This is how it all started.
Go so many places with that, and I'm going to choose not to.
This is how it all started. My computer was like 8 years old, and it was lovely, and it was a workhorse, and we backed everything up, and we used it for the podcast. And then one day, when we were trying to record,
It left the party and just didn't want to come back.
yeah, we opened up the bottles. We were ready to go. We were doing. You had me at Merlot.
Oh yeah, we never got that one out.
We never got that one out because the computer went meow, meow.
So we drank instead. We mourned the way that at least the Catholics I know mourn by drinking.
By drinking, yeah. And then, besides technical difficulties, we've had a few life changes.
Yeah, there's been some ups, some downs, some sideways, some leftways.
Some upside downs.
Sideways, you see what I did
right,
there?
with the movie, which ties into today's Pinot, you better don't.
Pinot, you better don't. If there's one thing we've learned, friends, it's that puns are forever.
And they're amazing, and we love them.
I mean, not unlike yourself.
Not unlike every listener out there. Thank you for listening.
Hi. We missed you.
We did miss you, and we missed getting together and recording. After doing it for almost a year, it was so nice to be able to get together every week, have some wine, talk about life.
Well, you were also a globe-trotting traveless.
Oh, on our break?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Paris for a week.
Like you do.
Paris is always a good idea. I went with my girlfriend, Brandy, who we've talked about on
Oh, yeah,
the podcast.
her wine is delicious, P.S.
Yeah, and she officially has her label, Grey Wing, and we took a bottle of her wine to Paris.
Live it, learn it, love it.
Yeah, and we drank it on the steps of the Sacré-Cœur, and it was, I mean, that wine is so
Is there
good.
anything more Paris than that? Drinking wine in front of a church?
No, and we watched a fire show because it was at nighttime. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's such a gorgeous view of the city.
Yeah, so Paris was amazing. I spent a week there, and then I promptly got let go from my position when I got, 3 days before I left, actually.
You know...
Whatever. It's life, man.
You got to
It's
roll with
life.
the punches. I got a new job as well.
That's right. In our
So,
few weeks that we've been gone.
My schedule has been totally upended.
Yep.
It's been a bit of an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Good. It's a good adjustment, but it's
Yeah.
an adjustment nonetheless.
It was like the computer, the technical difficulties was just like kismet with our lives. It's like technical difficulties with our lives.
Well, and you know what? This is not a full-time job for us. So
no, this is a labor of love.
I love you all, but y'all don't pay my rent. It's a true story.
At some point, we can only hope to be as prolific as the girls or Joe Rogan or,
Well, yes.
talking about wine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, come over here so I can cheers you.
Cheers.
Oh, that doesn't suck.
We're talking about Pinot today.
Yeah, so Pinot is are we done checking in? What else do we have to check in about?
There's a couple of housekeeping things. Because we weren't on the air and we weren't producing content, if you're a Patreon member, you were not charged.
Yep. We don't believe in charging you for a thing that we didn't do.
Yeah. So the only time you ever get charged if you're a Patreon member is if we put out content, which is great for us, holds us accountable, great for you because you feel like you're getting something for your investment.
Yeah. And we've had some people say, hey, I had to take a break for a minute. We get it.
Totally fine.
Life happens, man. Life happened to us.
Right.
Or excuse me, life happens, y'all. I'm trying to be better about not using male gender pronouns for everybody.
Oh, okay.
It's something I'm trying to be better about this year.
Oh, all right.
There's nothing wrong with a neutral third pronoun.
We, us, and they.
Well, you know who else has those? Every other language. Get on it, English.
So, yeah, life happens. We get it. We really appreciate your support. If you reach out to us, we have a whole ton of swag. You can get it on our website.
Yeah. casualwinegeeks.com.
On the little merch page. Or email us if you want swag. We got a whole bunch.
Do you like stickers? Do you like gold lame?
Do you like cool little lapel pins?
Do you like a lapel pin that doubles as a tie pin or maybe
a hat
pin? I mean, it's not on a stick, so you can't like go to the derby, but or maybe you can. What do I know?
Hot glue is amazing.
When I was graduating last year from college,
yes,
one of the other girls that I graduated with, we both did our at the college there was this whole like come and decorate your cap for your cap and gown.
Oh yeah, right.
And so I somehow ended up with a hot glue gun and a bunch of glue sticks.
Oh my god. I can't
so
even imagine. Like a magic wand, basically.
We rhinestoned the top of our caps. I think they're called motor boards.
The little like square thing.
Yeah, the cap you wear in graduation. To say like the year we graduated, and it was we did it to look like a champagne flute.
Nice.
Filled with bubbles.
I love it. Oh my god, I love it. Oh my god, I love it.
There was a picture of us actually somewhere that went around because we were sitting, all the wine kids, we all sat together when we were graduating. And were you there?
Nope. I was traveling that weekend.
Oh, were you down in the Oregon?
No, I think we're on a film set.
In the Willamette Valley.
I'm also kind of remotely in the film industry, so I think we were on a film set, like setting up.
She's famous, y'all. You are listening to fame.
These will be the secret recordings when I turn 80. Oh my god, did you get that secret recording?
I mean, I was there. Will I remember when I'm 80? Likely not.
Oh, we have an upgrade. Speaking of tech problems, we have an upgrade on our. We moved recording studios.
Yes, we're in a different studio now.
We're in a different studio, and we have different equipment that we're recording on.
Yeah.
So
we're bear with us as we're working the kinks out.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna help with the one ear, the other ear thing.
Yeah, we think we've been able to figure out after a year. Trials and tribulations. It's all a learning moment.
Well, neither one of us are in tech.
Hopefully this is coming to you in both of your ears and not one-sided like it used to.
Where you were in one and I was in the other. Like
it drove me nuts when I was listening to it.
Angel.
Because in my car when I would listen while I was driving, I would have to adjust the sound.
Mm-hmm.
But then my husband would get in a car and just play the normal radio. He's like, why is this so wonky?
Because Amanda is loud and she only talks in one ear.
It's all good.
Okay,
it's
back on track. We're on Pinot today. Yeah. All kinds of Pinot.
All the
Pinots.
Pinots.
The rainbow of Pinot.
All the many of the Pinots. Well, do you know why that is?
Why we're talking about Pinot She Better Don't?
Well, because we can talk about whatever the fuck we want because it's our podcast.
Because it's our podcast.
I'm saying why all of the Pinots, because they're all mutations.
They're all mutations of the same thing, right?
So it's not like Cabernet Sauvignon is the child of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Right.
So
we
that's
talked
why
about
we
that.
have the word Cabernet Sauvignon, right? Because
they go together.
Parents.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Pinots are siblings. They're all mutations of the same grape.
So Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris,
I have a list.
Pinot Grigio, Pinot Noir,
Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio are the same thing.
Pinot Meunier.
Yes.
And a secret Pinot.
Well, okay, so there's more than just the secret Pinot. So we've got... Hold, please.
I always ask him these questions. It's like, I do have that, and then it's buried in notes.
Yeah, because my notes are horribly unorganized. Okay, so we've got Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris.
Grigio is the same.
Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir.
Both of those are used in Champagne.
And that's all from Chile. Pinot Noir Precoce.
Like precocious child of Pinot?
Precoce.
Huh.
So that one is a little weird. So in certain parts of Germany, I also have all the words that these are all called different things in Germany. So for example, Pinot Noir is Pinot Nero.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And all the geeky details, in case you're a new listener, all the geeky details are posted on our Patreon page. There's a link on our website, and you can sign up to be a Patreon supporter, and then you get all the behind the scenes videos,
notes,
extras, all the extra bullshit that
stuff
we come prepared to talk about, and then we never talk about.
Hey, you're welcome. So like Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio is also called Grauburgunder, which is a gray Burgundy.
Oh, in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Burgundy.
Pinot Blanc is Weissburgunder, right? So you've got a whole situation. So this last one, which I'd never heard of before and I thought was a little weird, is called Frühburgunder, which is a dark blue black skinned varietal of grape that's is a mutation of Pinot Noir, which differs quite a lot in that it ripens earlier than normal. So it thus the descriptive nomination of I don't speak French, so I'm not even going to try. So whilst sometimes treated as a separate grape varietal, there are nevertheless those who consider it to just be an early ripening version of Pinot Noir. So it can just be, some people think it's a clone versus a different varietal.
Yeah.
But we'll get into the grape I discovered in doing research for this episode, which was found in Oregon of all places.
Yeah. And we have all three of our wines today are from Oregon. We have a Pinot Gris from St. Innocent. We have a Pinot Gris from Esther Glen, and we have a Pinot Noir from Torrey-Moore.
Yeah, we're on this Oregon train today. I tried to find a Pinot Blanc. Nothing spoke to me. I really wanted a Rosé Pinot Noir. I didn't see anything that I thought was delicious. So normally it's always bring 2 bottles. Today it's not.
Today we have what we have. My cellar is quite bare. I don't have any rosé in my cellar, which is a travesty.
Well, I mean, because it should be in your fridge and you should be drinking it.
That's what happened. It went into my fridge and I drank it.
We were somewhere recently and we have a rosé wine tasting. Oh, awesome. Great. Meow, meow, meow.
Perfect.
It was like, well, I know this producer and I know this wine and some of the other ones I was not familiar with. And so we ended up buying like 6 different rosés just to have on hand to just like sip when we're on the roof or barbecuing or grilling, because rosé is delicious with food.
Yeah.
And a lot of different kinds of food.
Yeah. Popcorn, delicious. You don't like popcorn?
I mean, I don't like popcorn and wine.
What? Who are you? What have you done with my friend? Popcorn and champagne is the best. Girl.
It's just not my bag. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
All right. Really? You don't like popcorn with your... Okay. All right.
Now, I like popcorn and beer because I like that salty... I like salt and beer together. But wine and popcorn, not my thing. I get it. I understand why it's a thing for people. It's just not my thing. And that's what's beautiful about the world of wine. That's all I'm saying.
Perfect.
Okay, so shall we do a little talking about some Pinot varietals?
Please.
So let's start with Pinot Blanc because I feel like I feel like Pinot Noir is one of the most well-known grapes in the world for a lot of reasons. I think that hold on, I have to adjust myself. We're in a new room. The lighting is weird.
The lighting is weird. The microphone setup is weird. The table is... everything is weird because it's not the same.
Change. So much change. Okay, so in Alsace, in Germany, Luxembourg, Italy, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia, Pinot Blanc, which is produced in a really, really definite full-bodied style. And in 2000, there were actually 1,300 hectares of Pinot Blanc planted in France, most of it in Alsace.
Because who likes a Pinot from Alsace?
That's me,
we
over
do.
on this end of the table. Which I was actually looking for a Pinot Blanc to bring because it's delicious. So
from
good.
Alsace,
it's so
it's
good.
The best.
It's
That's
so
what you
good. And is one of the more common varietals used to make Cremant d'Alsace in terms of a white varietal. Now, a little bit confusingly, Pinot Blanc in Alsace for the AOC does not necessarily mean that it's made out of 100% Pinot Blanc. So there's a difference between Pinot Gris, which is the actual varietal used in Alsace. So rather, the designation is a white wine made from Pinot varietals. So you've got...
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So under Alsatian appellation rules, the varietals Blanc, Auxerrois, Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, vinified white. So that means it hasn't seen any skin contact, so there's no red. Can all be used to make Pinot Blanc in Alsace. So Pinot Blanc and Auxerrois Blanc being the most common, which actually had that varietal grown here in Washington recently. Lobo Hills.
State.
Yeah, Lobo Hills in, oh Christ, where were we? Woodinville. He also graduated from South Seattle College.
The Northwest Wine Academy. Okay.
Tony is the winemaker, and he is delightful, and he is the only producer making Auxerrois in Washington State. He gets it from a nursery. It's not planted anywhere.
Huh.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And it's at Lobo, you said, up in Woodinville?
Lobo, Lobo Hills. We should go up there sometime.
Go taste it.
It's
kittens.
His wine is amazing, and he holds all of his wines back. So
to blend and to like do stuff with?
No, because he releases them when they're ready.
Oh, rather than just releasing every year, he holds it until it's ready to go.
Yeah, so we had stuff that was like 2010, 2012, 2013.
Wow. How interesting.
Very European style. A lot of his stuff is unfined, unfiltered. A lot of his stuff is, it's just delicious.
So Pinot, the grape, has more clones, more variety than any other grape.
Well, they're not clones, they're mutations. So you have...
Than any other grape variety out on the planet that we know of.
I think so. I mean, now someone feel free to do some investigative reporting and let me know how wrong I am.
But we have a podcast, so we can say whatever we want.
Well, that's a true story. Well, and so we'll run through all of the varietals and some of their markers and whatnot, and then we'll get into that whole concept of mutations, because I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about this fun Pinot that's new in Oregon.
Oh, yeah. And Pinot is hard to grow in general. Like Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir. It's not easy to grow.
Well, right. And Pinot Noir specifically because it's so thin-skinned.
Super thin-skinned.
It likes to be in a cooler climate, which means it's hard because then it doesn't ripen fully quite a lot of the time.
And you have mold issues. And you have,
which we'll talk about.
Okay.
All those things.
Perfect.
So most full-bodied Pinot Blancs coming out of Alsace will have kind of a spicy, smoky character and general moderate acidity. When you have Pinot Blanc in Burgundy and Champagne, a little bit different. So Burgundy Blanc blend.
It has like more melon, right?
I think so. And then you move over into Germany, where it's Weissburgunder, where there are 3,000 hectares planted, which is about 8,000 acres. And that was in around 2006. So the best versions are from Baden and Palatinate. Shit. We'll come back to that.
Taking a pass.
In the United States, it's mostly grown in California, where Melon de Bourgogne and Muscat are also grown. There was a mistake that was discovered, however, in the mid-1980s by a French enologist who was examining rootstock while visiting UC Davis.
Okay.
Our friends down at UC Davis, where all the fun wine stuff happens.
Yep, Northern California.
And Pinot Blanc was purchased from a nursery thought to be the genuine article. Now, it's also grown in Austria and Hungary, as well as in Burgundy.
Because it's all like right in there is similar climate. Not the same, but
right.
Colder, cooler climate.
Well,
growing.
and then you get up into Canada and the Okanagan Valley, where it's mostly grown for ice wine. It's kind of turning into having a bit of a following. Pinot Blanc has also been confused with Chardonnay, and wineries often make it in the same style of barrel fermenting on new oak.
Really?
Malolactic fermentation, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I know how I feel about it, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I haven't tasted any of it, but I'm not quite sure I feel confident that that's a good idea.
I almost just knocked my wine over.
I was
clutching my pearls. I'm upset.
Well, as one would be if you put a nice Pinot Blanc or Pinot Gris into oak.
Well, and one of the
Like
things
that.
that I really like about Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris is decent acid. I like the fruit. I think it's delicious. Pinot Gris has been grown in the Middle Ages since the Middle Ages. It was grown in the Middle Ages. Did you know that? Now you know it.
Looks great.
I meant to say it's been grown since the Middle Ages in Burgundy, where it was likely called Fromental, and it spread from Burgundy also with Pinot Noir. It got to Switzerland by the 1300s. Pinot Gris was reportedly a favorite of Emperor Charles IV, who had cuttings imported to Hungary by monks. They planted a bunch of these, all around in Hungary for a while. There, it developed a name meaning gray monk. I don't speak Hungarian. I'm not going to try.
But that's very similar to the earlier you were talking about the German name for, and it translated to gray Burgundy.
Pinot Gris, Grauburgunder.
Grauburgunder, gray
Yeah,
Burgundy.
so we've
gray
moved on to
monk,
Pinot. Well, so Pinot Gris, still the same thing.
Yep. Language. Crazy. Did I tell you that I was in caves in Champagne that were built by hand, dug out in the Middle Ages?
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing.
I would imagine.
That was amazing.
I would imagine. So Pinot Gris, grown in Alsace, will also have a real full-bodied, a little bit more acidic than the Italian varietal. The Alsatian style, which is generally what you see duplicated in the New World where we are.
Yes, Oregon.
Or, I mean, we're not in Oregon, but
It's very,
wouldn't
very
we
similar.
like to be?
Very similar style. Alsatian Pinot Gris is very similar to Oregon Pinot Gris.
Also grown in New Zealand and Tasmania, South Australia, Washington, Oregon. We have moderate to low acidity, higher alcohol levels. That almost what I love about Pinot Gris, it can be oily. It'll have a weird, like, oily, slick texture to it, which I like, but I understand can be off-putting to some folk.
Right.
However, in Italy, Pinot Grigio grapes are often harvested early and have a lot brighter acid and tend to they lower kind of that over fruitiness that can sometimes happen. And so it'll be kind of imitated in older world regions like Germany, where it tends to have that less fruit, more acid.
I think in Alsace, and this is the part that I love about Alsatian Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc, they have this beautiful high bright acid to it, but it also has this amazing fruit, like soft, full fruitness that lands on your palate that kind of rounds out the whole thing, which there's nowhere else in the world that really does that. Like Oregon does a good job, but there's definitely a flavor and a texture to an Oregon Pinot Gris. There's definitely a flavor and a texture to an Italian Pinot Grigio, but I would have to agree with you. Alsatian Pinot Gris is
where it's at.
Delish.
It's where it's at.
Yeah.
So Pinot Meunier, which we love in our bubbles, is a varietal most noted for being one of the three varietals in Champagne, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay being the others.
Mm-hmm. And it's not planted in like the acreage hectares. It's not like Pinot Meunier is not a popular grape to plant just to make wine with.
No. However, in Champagne, it's approximated that about 1/3 of all the grapes planted in Champagne are Pinot Meunier.
Yeah, because they use it for blending, for weight and texture in the Champagne. Yeah.
And it's a chimeric this is the type of mutation. It's a chimeric mutation of Pinot, and which means that the inner cell layers are composed of the same genotype that Pinot Noir has. Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris. However, the outer epidermal skin, for those of us that never took a science class like me, because I was busy in band, the epidermal layer is where the mutation comes from and is the distinctive genotype. So Pinot Meunier was first mentioned in the 16th century and gets its name from the synonym French Meunier and German Müller, both meaning miller, because it has a flower-like dusty white down on the underside of its leaves.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's where that comes from.
So Pinot Meunier has a thicker skin, just a little bit thicker than Pinot Noir.
And it's the skin that's different genetically.
And that's
the inside of the grape is similar or the same as Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir. However, the epidermal.
And that's what adds the weight and the texture to the wine. when you're blending with champagne.
Yes, ma'am, Amazon.
Yeah. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I learned a lot of new things.
Today you did.
Forgotten more than I care to tell you.
Right.
So Pinot Noir, which is also known as Spätburgunder, comes originally from Burgundy, particularly in the Côte d'Or. It is also planted in, are you ready for this?
It's my favorite.
Argentina,
Yep.
Australia, Austria, Bulgaria, Canada, Chile, Croatia, Czech Republic, Republic of Georgia, Germany, Greece, Israel, Italy, Hungary, Kosovo, Republic of Macedonia, Moldova, New Zealand, Romania, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, South Africa, Switzerland, Ukraine, the United States, and Uruguay.
That girl gets around. I love her.
I mean, can you blame her?
Oh, man, she's the best.
God bless you, Pinot Noir.
So I have a fun fact for you.
Oh, lay it on me.
Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir sales after the release of Sideways went up 16% in 1 year.
Didn't
Sideways.
we talk about this?
I think we talked about Sideways, but I think it was more in general of Merlot versus Pinot Noir.
It was all the research I did for Merlot. You better don't.
Oh, that we didn't talk about.
Or you had me at Merlot.
You had me at Merlot.
Yeah.
This is Pinot. We better don't.
We'll have to do that one because I actually found some interesting numbers in terms of sales and purchasing that will greatly
It'll blow your mind.
This whole Pinot Noir sales dropped because of a movie shit.
Oh, Merlot sales dropped. Pinot Noir.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Sideways.
It's interesting. It's so interesting.
And I think Bottle Shock came out around the same time when they talked about California and the Judgment of Paris. And it had Alan Rickman and yeah, I know.
R.I.P. Alan Rickman. I was just talking about him not the other day. No, you were there.
Yeah. We were sitting in the sunshine.
This Pinot has a really interesting rye. It tastes like rye bread or caraway.
Really good.
Are you with me on this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this
tastes like the best rye bread I've ever had.
This is a 2014 Tory Moore. This is their reserve Pinot Noir, and I chose it today. Besides the fact that Tory Moore is amazing, and I love the fact that they do a screw cap, and it is affordable. They are being featured as one of the wineries for the International Pinot Noir celebration that's happening in Oregon in July 27th, 28th, and 29th.
I will not be there.
For more information, go to ipnc.org. And tickets you can go to this event. It's an international event. They have speakers and wine and winemakers. And you can talk to everybody and anybody. And tickets are like $125 to like $1,300.
Now, they're not a sponsor. However, if you would like to be a sponsor, info at casualwinegeeks.com.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor, but the IPNC is, we've talked about it a few times on the show. If you're into Pinot, this is the place for you. They do food pairings. If you go for the whole thing, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, wine pairings, the whole 9 yards, and you get to rub elbows with some of the most amazing people in the Pinot wine industry in the world. It's amazing.
We should crash it next year.
If we ever want to go, because we're in the industry, we can work the party or we can go as just guests.
Oh, if we work the party, can we go and do we get discount entry tickets or something?
Well, you're working, but yes, you can go as...
I want to go listen to lectures and pick people's brains.
Oh, let me see what I can do. Not this year, though. You're not available?
No, I think I'm busy. I think we're busy.
Okay.
My sister's coming to town. I don't remember when that is. Sister, call me. Let me know what's going on.
So IPNC, July 27th through the 29th, ipnc.org.
Make it happen.
Yep.
Make it happen.
There you go. That's my plug.
Well, the United States, interesting enough, is becoming much more of a major Pinot producer, with some of the best coming out of the Willamette Valley in Oregon.
Yeah. Or doesn't the U.S. aren't they number 2 in the world?
I think so.
For production.
That sounds right.
France is number 1.
Right.
Oregon or U.S. is number 2. And
I think so. Because you've got a lot of Pinot coming out of California. So Sonoma, Russian River Valley, the Sonoma Coast.
A lot of great Pinot.
Mendocino, Santa Lucia Highlands, Santa Maria Valley, Santa Rita Hills. In New Zealand, however, it's mostly grown in Martinborough, Marlborough, Waipara, and the central Otago. Now, interestingly enough, the leaves of Pinot Noir are generally smaller than those of Cab and Syrah, and the Pinot vine is typically less vigorous than either of those varieties. So we've talked about Cab and Syrah before. Real high producers grow really well everywhere.
Yep. Pinot is not that girl.
Pinot is not that girl.
She's quite picky.
She's decisive, one might say.
Yeah.
Maybe she wants to stay home that day. And she will.
And she will. Absolutely.
Well, interestingly enough, the Pinot vine being less vigorous has much smaller cylindrical shaped bunches that look almost like a pine cone. And some viticultural historians actually believe that the shape similarity may have given rise to the name.
Oh, Pinot and pine cone. Yeah.
In a vineyard, Pinot Noir is sensitive to wind and frost, cropping levels. I'm reading here. I'm not paraphrasing. Cropping levels. It must be low yielding for production of quality wine. So that's one of the reasons you see Pinot being expensive.
Oh yeah, because you press a metric fuck ton of grapes for not that much juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's shocking. Do harvest at a Pinot producer and you'll be like, what the fuck? I don't mind paying this much for Pinot anymore.
Yeah. And in the winery, it's real sensitive to fermentation methods.
Yep.
Certain yeast strains will totally fuck it up.
Yep. There's a lot that can go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. It's really reflective of where it's grown, which is why Pinot in Oregon is so vastly different than Pinot in France
or California.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's real susceptible to fungal disease. It's real susceptible to bunch rot.
Yep.
The vines themselves can get powdery mildew, especially in Burgundy. You see a lot of complications that have given this grape a really difficult reputation.
And then, not just that, but then you have to deal with the weather. Like France had those freak hailstorms that went through and like decimated all these crops in Champagne.
Oh yeah, and Portugal.
And Pinot is not, that grape is not one to survive a hailstorm like that. It's not hardy. It's going to be like, yeah, fuck y'all. I'll come back next year maybe.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it's hands down one of the most popular wines, I think, in the world.
Yeah, I think so.
You've got...
Because it goes so well with food.
Yeah, well, people call it sex in a glass for a reason. I mean,
do they really?
Oh, yeah. It's...
I agree. Absolutely. Sex in a glass.
You know, it can run the gamut of, bouquets and how the nose is and what the texture of the liquid is and what the flavors are pointing out and how it really has to do with a lot of things that you can cover up Cabernet and Syrah.
Oh yeah, you can give it a oak bomb. You can do a lot of things.
You can beat Cab and Syrah until it's black and blue, and it'll still taste like Cab and Syrah. Pinot is not as forgiving. It's got.
You can blend Cab and Syrah. You can't really blend Pinot as well.
Oh, why would you?
Right, but if you fuck it up, like that's it. You're done.
Yeah, when it's younger, the color is often garnet. Generally much lighter than other red wines. It's super natural, and it's not a winemaking fault if it's got because it has a lower anthocyanin, which is the red coloring in the skin. There's a whole bunch of science words that I'm not going to talk about because I don't know them or how they relate.
You know what? They'll be on Patreon and they will be cited, so you can do your own research.
Currently coming up stylistically from California, New Zealand, the Pinots out of there tend to have much more, they're much more fruit forward. They're a lot darker.
California, New Zealand, you said?
Mm-hmm. And
they have a little bit more sunshine in California than they do in Oregon.
Well, but in the areas in
Champagne,
the north,
right?
where it's being grown, you're close to the coast. You get cooler winds. It's much more valley hill specific. So you've got a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Protection, right? It's not like Eastern Washington where it's flat as fuck.
That's true. And the soil is different. Like it could be granite, it could be volcanic. And in France, it's, there's chalk soils, like, right? All the soil differences.
Oh, for sure. Well, and Pinot Noir, let's take a little left turn here, is almost certainly a very ancient varietal that may only be 1 or 2 generations removed from the wild Vitis sylvestris. So Pinot Noir is Vitis vinifera is the species. Vitis sylvestris is a different species of grapes, similar to what we have in the United States.
Labrusca.
Raparis. Oh,
There's 5, huh?
Yeah.
These were on my flashcards, and I don't remember.
Anyway, we'll go back to that another day. My college professors are rolling over right now.
Yeah. Don't listen to this.
Well,
we've had a couple of glasses of wine, even though we have Cliff's Notes. You got to give us a little credit for remembering at least 3.
Yeah.
That's
Rue
like passing.
Anyway, it's going to drive me nuts now until I look it up later. So only a couple generations removed. And however, no one really knows where Pinot Noir came from. So in De Re Rustica, Columella describes a grape varietal similar to Pinot Noir in Burgundy around the 1st century Common Era. However, vines have grown wild as far north as Belgium in the days before phylloxera, so it's possible that Pinot represents a direct domestication of Vitis sylvestris. There's an interesting... We can now take a right turn and talk about how Pinot Noir has been argued that it's a cross between Pinot Meunier and Traminer, but that's been refuted.
I don't think so.
It's been proven to not be correct.
I was like, no, that can't be, because I had a whole thing I was going to argue that, but I'm glad that it's been proven.
So here's where we'll get into the whole mutation chimera situation. So in fact, Pinot Meunier has been shown to be a chimerical mutation, which is a mutation in the epidermal cells.
Yep.
The skin. Which makes the shoot tips and leaves prominently hairy white and the vine a little smaller and earlier ripening. Talking about Pinot Meunier.
So compared to Pinot Noir.
Right. So thus Pinot Meunier is a chimera with 2 tissue layers of different genetic makeup, both of which contain a mutation making them non-identical to and mutations of Pinot Noir, as well as any other color form of Pinot. Does that make sense?
Yes. Pinot Meunier is thicker skinned.
Right. But
different.
But the chemical genetic difference between them is in 2 tissue layers of the grape.
Hence the name chimera, meaning 2.
I think traditionally a chimera was 3 things, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, wasn't it? I
think it was 2.
A lion and a snake and...
Wouldn't that be trimera?
Hey, I'm not a Greek scholar. I fell asleep in Greek mythology in college.
You did?
I don't know. My teacher was terrible.
I learned it from Mission Impossible. They talk about the chimera. I think it was like number 2. Tom Cruise.
I dislike Tom Cruise greatly, and I won't watch his movies.
Fair enough.
The end. So because of that, Pinot Meunier cannot be a parent of Pinot Noir and is actually a mutation, which has generated Pinot Gris from other forms of Pinot, specifically Blanc and Noir. So
do you think that Pinot Meunier was like a Darwin survival of the fittest kind of mutation that happened?
I think
to propagate, because Pinot Noir is so delicate and so sensitive. It just blows my mind that it has made it so far without some sort of, and maybe Pinot Meunier was that mutation, like, oh shit, we're dying, let's mutate so we can survive, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you want to talk about Pinot Gris, which is a Pinot color sport, which can arise by mutation of Pinot Noir or Pinot Blanc, presumably representing a mutation in either the VVMYBA1 or VVMYBA2 genes. Those are the specific genes that have
Holy
linked.
Cow, yeah.
Oh, girl, I did research. Because I think it's fascinating that they're not...
We're getting into the geek part of casual whining.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is
when
interesting.
you look at the DNA profiles and the genes of why grapes are the way they are, especially if you see Pinot Gris. What do you need? This?
No, I was just looking at it's okay. I was just looking at the lovely bottle of Esterglen. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, my arms, I have hobbit arms. I can't reach.
It's okay.
So if we're going to talk about those genes specifically control berry color. So
there had to be a mutation if the color changed.
Right. So Pinot Blanc is a further mutation and can naturally arise from or give rise to Pinot Gris or Pinot Noir. So they're not quite sure which came first, because the genetic mutation can work backwards or forwards.
The Blanc or
Does that make sense?
The Blanc or the Gris, kind of like the chicken or the egg.
It doesn't matter. Grapes were there. We thank you.
Thank you.
So the general DNA profiles of both Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc are identical to Pinot Noir and other Pinots. There's actually a Pinot Meunier and a Pinot Teinturier, which are similarly genetically really close. It should also be noted, therefore, that almost any given Pinot of whatever berry color can occur as a complete mutation or as a chimera of almost any other Pinot.
So, wow. Yep. Pinot, she better don't.
Right. So it's hard to pinpoint what started and what came
from
what, because the genetic and or chimeric mutations can work forwards as well as backwards.
Got it.
So no one really knows who propagated what. Oh, we're noticing this thing, we're going to pull it off and start propagating it elsewhere like a clone.
Thus the title of today's episode.
Pinot, you better don't. Girl.
Forward and backward.
Girl.
Yes.
Let's see. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Something about chili. Something about clones. Shmeow, meow, meow.
Great.
Yeah.
So, and all the details will be on Patreon, and including the link to the IPNC. If you want to learn more, ask more geeky questions that we won't answer.
For
and your Casual Wine Geeks are back on the air.
Yeah. Here we are. Hi.
I feel like we just jumped right in.
Well, didn't we need to jump right in? Feet first.
We did. Our people missed us.
Well, we missed our people. Maybe we'll wrap it up with a fun, weird, geeky thing that's happening in Oregon.
Sure.
I don't have much more notes. That's why.
No, that's it.
So
something other than the IPNC?
Yeah. So this is about a potentially new grape that has been found in Oregon.
So this is why Oregon should be your favorite state in the union, where you go and taste their wines and just be so happy and spend all your money. Yeah. Because Oregon has a new exciting thing happening.
Also, no sales tax.
No sales tax.
So this is an article that was written in the Seattle Times by Andy Perdue, who I don't know if anybody knows who he is, but he's the wine writer for the Seattle Times. Very nice gentleman. I've listened to him speak a couple times. He's been to the college once or twice. Really great guy. So this is a new grape that was discovered by a winemaker at a neighboring vineyard. So
a neighboring vineyard in Oregon?
Yeah, so the wine, it wasn't at the winemaker's vineyard, it was the vineyard next door that he discovered it at. So Pinot Noir, real hard to work with. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yep.
Hard to make, genetically unstable. There are 2, maybe possibly 3 white grape varietals that are known as mutations of Pinot Noir, which we've talked about.
Yep.
Pinot Gris,
all the things.
Pinot Blanc, all the things. Now, mutations sort of seem to be the catch-all that happens with Pinot, and it happens in Oregon. So Don Lang, who's the owner and winemaker of Lang Estate, whose wines
are delicious,
very good.
Yeah, they are he's a great winemaker.
They're in Dundee Hills, and he's been making wine in Oregon for more than 25 years.
He's one of the founding families, or right in that time
beginning
frame.
Wine folk. So one day in the 1990s, back when I was a wee baby gay, he was walking a block of Pinot Gris a few miles from his winery in a vineyard called Winter's Hill.
Yep.
Have you been there?
I know exactly where you're talking about, yes.
So he noticed that there was a mutation taking place in which half of the cluster had ripe red grapes and half were green. He thought that the green grapes tasted good, so he isolated the canes containing the mutation, took cuttings, and propagated it in his own vineyard. He eventually had enough baby vines to plant an acre of the unknown grape in the lower reaches of the estate, and by 2008 he had enough fruit to harvest a commercial crop, which filled about 3 barrels and made 75 cases of wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, not much wine, but...
Nope. So he called the grape Pinot Pierre after Peter Galhart, who owned Winter's Hill Vineyard. He calls the wine indigène, which is the word indigenous, and bottles it under his Domaine Trouvère label. And so here's where it gets interesting. By law, he cannot name the grape varietal because of the mystery mutation is not recognized by the federal government.
Yeah, because they're, TTB.
Yep.
All the things. It's amazing.
If you could see me right now, I'm flipping them off.
You should go and taste his wine. If you haven't tasted his wine, you should taste his wine.
Yeah, so he says it's too tasty to simply label as a white table wine,
Nope.
which was the only other thing he could do.
Yep.
So he is curious about the grape that he discovered and has nurtured. The fact is, it is indigenous to the Dundee Hills. It exists nowhere else in the world.
Nope. That's it. That's where it is.
Fascinating.
Super amazing. Have you seen, so I've actually seen a 50-50 cluster like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
It like your brain is thinking one thing and then you taste the grapes on it and you're like, wait, what? Yeah, it's amazing.
Because contrary to popular belief, Pinot Gris is not a white-skinned grape.
No.
It's called Pinot Gris because it's almost pink.
Yeah.
It has a hue to it. It's not a green.
It's not like a
skinned.
green apple or like it's not like what you would think.
It's not like Chardonnay.
Nope.
Doesn't look like Riesling.
Yeah.
No, it's got this weird pink tinge to it, and so it really was one of those like,
yeah.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah. And if anybody listening has a chance, go down to Oregon, go taste, go walk through the vineyards, talk to the winemakers, ask questions. Things like this happen all the time, but we don't hear about it, right? Because it's just the geeky people that are out there.
Well, is it commercially viable?
Probably
You
not.
have to get, because of our labeling laws in this country, you have to get, there are only a certain list of approved varietals that you can put on a label of a bottle of wine because fuck the TTB.
Right. And so this guy, he has this whole crop. He has 3 barrels of this wine. He's not going to sell it as just white table wine.
Right.
Even though he doesn't know what it is, right?
Right.
But you go there and you taste it at his tasting room and you'll buy it because he'll tell you the whole story about it. That's the difference between buying at a tasting room and buying at a grocery store. You're only going to get a tiny bit of information that's on the label. If you go to the tasting room and you ask questions, now it's not just a white table wine. Now it's like, oh my gosh, this came from this like split cluster of grapes. We planted this, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting constant mutation to keep up with of a grape that likes to mutate, that has a lot of weird genetic fuckery.
This was in the 90s. That is not that long ago.
Yeah, and to think that he didn't have enough until 2008 to really press.
Yeah.
First of all, let's talk about how you need at least 3 years of a planted thing before you get enough fruit to make wine with.
Yep.
Probably more like 5 because those grapes aren't going to be good enough. The vines aren't old enough to produce wine that's going to be delicious.
Yeah, and you have to, not only that, but you have to have cuttings and hope that they don't die, and grow them.
Is it even suited? Maybe it didn't show up anywhere because it has shown up previously and didn't make it because conditions, weather, water, soil, rot, disease, mismanagement.
I mean, maybe it showed up because the honeybees didn't fall asleep because of an eclipse and it, pollinated X against Y.
Everything's connected, yo.
It's so crazy to me. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's great if you can go down and talk. That's why I like going to Lobo Hills in Woodinville because the gentleman working the tasting room is the winemaker and he is so fun to talk to.
Winemakers are fun to talk to.
I want to have him on the show someday when we get another microphone because he is the type
one
of
technical difficulty at a time.
Hey, climb every mountain. He is the type of geek that I feel like you and I could just
talk to forever
for hours. He's really mild mannered. He's very smart.
We'll do a marathon question and answer session.
But he's not pretentious in how he presents his information, and he kind of reads the audience and sort of figures out oh, you're a wine geek. How much time do you have? Let's talk about everything.
We need to give him a lapel pen.
it's really, we've been out there a couple times since we met him, and it's like one of my new favorite places to go in Woodinville.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's out in the Warehouse District. Check him out. Lobo Hills.
Lobo Hills. And Lang Wines in Dundee Hills in Oregon.
And Tori Moore and Esther Glenn and St. Innocent.
Yeah.
Drink all the things.
Drink all the things. Watch your movies.
That's what I have to say.
Drink your things.
Write us notes. Tell us what you're drinking.
I love you, Brandon.
I love you, Amanda.
Thanks for coming back.
Hey, we're back.
Thanks for coming
We're
back.
on track. We're doing stuff.
We're back on track. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. We love you.
And keep on geeking out.
Always take 2 bottles.
Always take 2 bottles.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.